Welcome back to the Arreoblue Podcast. I appreciate I'm a new face today. I'm Chloe, the Account and Alliances Manager for Arreoblue. We've got an exciting guest today. Matt, great to have you on the podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
For joining us.
Absolutely.
We've got someone who sits right at the intersection of data, strategy and innovation. So yeah, really, really happy to have you with us, Matt. For our listeners, and for me, would you mind doing a bit of an introduction, telling us a little bit about your role at CBRE, what you do, and then I'll jump into what we're going to be covering today and how we'll wrap things up at the end with a bit of a quick fire question round, which I'm thinking maybe I should have done it at the start to shake some of the nervousness from podcasting. But yeah, Matt, please, an introduction.
Sure. So I'm Matt Robertson. I am a leader in our digital and analytics business, and we're a team that sits at the intersection between the business users and the data and the analytics team, so the actual engineering team building products, to make sure that our clients and our business operators are served with the right data insights, reporting, overall data intelligence they need to operate their contracts. Now, what CBRE do, we are the world's largest real estate and facilities management company. So all of the data for us is geared around helping teams manage facilities better, manage real estate better, deliver great workplaces, deliver better portfolio strategies.
Thank you, Matt. Great. So we've got a fantastic session lined up today, not to be biased, but we're going to dive into a little bit about your career into data, how you got into it, some of the challenges Matt's faced along the way. I'm not going to call it out, but is it 19 years you've been in the data industry?
It'll be something like that. I stopped counting
Okay.
when I stopped counting my age, roughly the same time.
We are going to talk about your book, which I have stolen from you and I'm going to take home with me. So congratulations on that. We'll talk about the book and some of the research behind it and some of the people you'd love to read it. And then, as I said, we'll wrap up with a quick fire round and some fun questions so our listeners can get to know you.
Yep.
Let's start off with how you got into data and did you always know you wanted to get into the industry? How did it all begin?
I definitely didn't know that I always wanted to get into it. I started my career in real estate, but I started that career actually in a data provider for the real estate industry. So I sort of fell into it as an entry-level data analyst, and I worked my way up for a couple of years. Then I moved to CBRE, the company I'm at now, and I made the decision at that point in time to go more back into the bricks and mortar real estate industry. But in doing that, I kept on seeing teams, my colleagues doing the same thing over and over again with data, heavy manual gathering exercises and crunching exercises and lots of failures. So I jumped in to start fixing those kind of things, and it just dragged me in positively. I'm happy to be dragged in deeper and deeper into the data world. I started creating products, creating portfolio strategy tools. So I really fell into it gladly, but through originally my domain understanding of real estate that I really enjoyed.
Interesting. Okay, the amount of people I speak to and are like, yeah, I just fell into data. Everything circles back to data, right? We eat, drink, consume it, live it. I'm laughing because the title of Matt's book is Data on Your Plate, but we're going to get into it in the food analogy in a little bit. Yeah. But yes, it's everywhere, right? And everything and value, it all ties back into data. So no, thank you for that. Challenges in the career. I'm sure it wasn't just swimming and straight through to where you are now. What are some of the hurdles that you came up against?
It's never plain sailing, right? So everyone's dealing with their challenges throughout their career. But I think the one that's most pertinent to the topic of data would be being naive and believing people or assuming that the data existed, that was needed. So I spent, early days in my career very, happily building out models that I knew that we were going to pump data into later, and then taking them to the business users and then saying, okay, great job, Matt. So when do you put the data in? And I had to sort of go through all the, the denial and acceptance emotions of working with the business and saying, I actually need you to surface the data to me. Like these products are built for you to consume the data that you're creating in a more positive way. I can't do that for you. So I would say those are probably the most frustrating, biggest hurdles in the career when trying to make a positive difference.
And how have you seen, I guess, the data landscape change from when you first started in data to the way things are now? Or is it similar challenges that you had at the beginning that you're seeing now? Have things changed a lot?
They've changed fantastically and dramatically. When I first moved to London for that data real estate job, our entire database was on terminals that were run on sol.net, which was like an MS-DOS interface. I had to type in commands to load data and to pull data out. And we take it all the way to where we are now, when we're currently really implementing semantic layers across our entire cross-domain data sets, that we can actually draw inferences from one domain to another. It's like chalk and cheese. It's completely fundamentally changed how we're using data.
Do you think teams are more siloed now than they were back in the day? Like, is it very IT, data, platform, and the business? This is a leading question into what I'd like to dive into.
Is a leading question. There are silos. I think it would be unfair of me to say that all businesses and ours are, and mine that I'm working in right now, there's always this open door communication between the business and IT or the data team. But I do see that when we take the business along the journey with us, and we show that we're open and we want to understand what problems they're trying to address in their business. I don't think saying we're solving data problems is the outcome they're looking for. Like, oh, we've got better data. We got a faster insight from that data. That's not solving a problem. They ultimately need to take an action with that data to, fix something faster for a client, or change a contract parameter.
There's often that gap between data and the technical teams,
Sure.
and then the business users and stakeholders. And I'd love to dive into, and I'm picking your brain here because I would love to hear some of your industry experience on it. But how do we bridge that gap that we often always face into?
I have found that a really powerful way to bridge the gap is to have, and it doesn't have to be everyone, but having a handful of domain experts who learn and understand the data quite deeply, and also a handful of the data experts who learn and understand the domain that they're working with quite deeply. Because with that, you can create a core of people who can go into their silos or their respective parts of the organization and spread the message. I think it's unfair to assume that every domain expert becomes a data engineering or a data business intelligence expert. I think it's not realistic, and vice versa. But if we have a core group of people who really take an interest in both sides, I find that is the thing that starts breaking the silos down and creating that trust. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, the big thing is trust, right? From both sides. Are there any practical tips or tricks or bits of advice that you have for instilling good communication between both sides? I know you mentioned taking people on the journey with you, having both sets of the domain owners and the business and the data. Are there any practical communication habits, styles that would be useful for creating those environments?
I mean, I'll give you a bit of practical and also a bit of squishy. And I think practical is just being very direct but fair. There's no sending a 2-paragraph waffly email of what you feel the situation is going to be is something that I used to do, and it didn't get me anywhere. So being very, brief, direct, but fair to both sides is certainly helpful. I find a very, very powerful tool for both sides, business side and data side, again, to bring them together, is just to be vulnerable. Just to say, I don't understand your domain. Help me. If you're looking for help, treat me as a utility to getting you across the line, what you're trying to achieve, either from getting better data insights or getting faster, engineering teams to solve your needs. Just be open, be vulnerable.
There's something so powerful about saying, I don't know.
Yep.
And actually being the one to ask the question in the room, right? I was talking to Steve about this recently enough, and that curiosity and inquisitiveness can bridge so many gaps and just really open up the communication. I don't know, tell me about that, or help me understand this a little bit more.
Absolutely.
I was picking your brain on it before we even started recording, but I guess I'm living it with a client at the moment, trying to find that balance with giving people and the business enough access to data, building that trust, but also not losing the guardrails around it. So I was wondering if you have any wisdom that you can impart on how to navigate that.
It's a tricky one, because where are the guardrails in the life cycle of data? So generally I find that guardrails exist, and change can be difficult when you try and put guardrails around the creation of data. So that being taking teams from using their developed over time ad hoc processes. We were talking about processes with the lowercase p, right? So everyone doing everything in Excel, manually ad hoc. It's been developed that way over years, saying, okay, we feel there's going to be benefit for more structured data, so let's put a workflow tool in place, let's design it. Taking them through that change management can be difficult unless you show them the light at the end of the tunnel. So does that mean building a proof of concept? Maybe not. It can be expensive, but at least taking them through the vision of what you're trying to achieve if they go through the effort of changing their ways of working into that workflow tool. So that's the, breaking down the guardrails of creating good quality data. And then I suppose some of the other guardrails you were talking about, or the challenges, were a platform data engineering, data intelligence team not opening the doors to the business to have a sandbox and play around with it. It can happen. I think it's about, again, the openness and the communication of that there does not need to be people in there undermining the core data validity, but giving them a sandbox to play with, maybe a snapshot, and to test, because they will bring, if they, when I say they, I mean the domain teams, the business users, if they're testing data, they're your free testing resources. So let them in, let them play, but try and steer them towards your centrally governed platform approach.
Matt, we've talked a lot about communication and building trust across teams in work. I want to talk about your outside of work extracurricular activities and how this feeds into your book, which I've been reading some of as we've been chatting throughout the day. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
A monumental achievement. Well done. And I guess my first question is, what inspired you to write a book that's specifically for data consumers?
I have always used, I say always, but for a very long time used analogies, particularly the food analogy, to help people understand sort of more complex, less easily understood, tangible data things. And I'd had a very challenging month of working with not just one team, but a bunch of teams, really trying to help them understand things that they needed to understand to be successful with data. And I just found myself using the analogy again and again. And I was on holiday with my family, and I really just thought, hey, I could do this. I think maybe a book would be helpful for people. So I took those little snippets of the, little pieces of the, farm to table analogy of how data gets created and consumed. I wrote the outline, and that was really sort of like my origin, my sort of inspiration for doing it out of frustration, and wanting to help people, and then realizing that, although looking back, I probably should have taken more time to think about it. I think I can do this. But my real advice, if you're thinking about writing a book, is to really think about it.
Were there moments where you were like, oh gosh, maybe this was a mistake? You mentioned at the start of the book you wrote a short story, and you were like, this is going to take a while if I'm continuing along this. Was that to do with your food analogy, or?
The short story is about the food analogy, yeah. It's
Right,
about
okay.
it's about a character called Billy the Boss in Sightson. There's a bit of like an in-joke there because I created a product called Boss back in the day, so
Okay.
people who know me might get a kick out of that, or they might just think I'm a bit of a sado. But it's about an athlete who's wanting to improve their performance. They've been in the game for a long time. They're trying to improve things, and so it takes them on the journey, or the story takes us on the journey of them meeting a nutritionist who takes them to where their data is plated for them back to where it originates from on the farm. And that short story is at the beginning of the book. I tried to write the entire book like that, and it was very, very difficult.
I can imagine.
Very hard going. So I decided to keep it short, keep that a short story, and make the information more consumable. So, say advice if you're writing a book, be prepared to pivot.
How long did it take you? Be honest.
Give or take a year.
A year.
Give or take a year.
Good going.
I used my spare time. I've got a young daughter. I'd put her to bed, and she isn't the best sleeper. Exhibit A, right? And I'd spend hours or a couple of hours upstairs waiting for her to fully go to sleep. So I'd pop into the office and do this every now and again when I wanted to. But about a year.
Any surprising challenges on the way that you came across when you were writing?
All of it. I think just the effort to actually get your ideas legible, not waffly, structured, starting with an outline absolutely helped. But I think that the challenges really were, I found it surprising how rewarding but difficult it was. It's not an easy undertaking.
To be honest, even the first page I opened, it wasn't the first page of the book. I just did your classic open the middle of the book. You associated data governance with the food supply chain, and made references to the similarity there. Just to give a bit of an example of how you map the food analogy to data, can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. It's one of the chapters. One of the chapters is about making sure high quality ingredients ultimately end up on your plate, but it flows all the way through really, and really the data governance analogy is every ingredient that ends up on your plate ultimately goes to a centralized place where it is governed. So local or government food regulators are very rarely going to the actual farms, and they're infrequently going to the restaurants, but they're omnipresent in food warehouses and the food supply chain. So checking that an apple is an apple, that a green apple is a green apple, that it has a sell-by date, that it's measured by the right denomination. We don't sell milk in grams, we sell it in milliliters or fluid ounces, and we don't sell flour in liters. We sell it by the correct denominations, and that it can exactly be said of data. The correct metadata, the correct cadence, completeness, frequency that we expect of it, so that it's healthy to make a decision with it, just like it's healthy to make a dietary decision from eating it.
Who do you want picking up the book, ideally?
Anyone with a spare 11 quid. No, anyone who is looking to improve their understanding about how they are an important part of the data lifecycle and the data supply chain and the data consumption chain, and who maybe feel like they they don't understand when their data people are talking to them, or they don't understand where a dashboard has originated from, or the challenges in it. Anyone who I suppose has looked at a dashboard and gone, that's wrong, but I don't know why, or that's, to overly simplify, that's bad. I would like to track it back to where the error might have come from.
What's the one thing you hope sticks with people after reading this book? If there was one thing that you could pinpoint.
I would say if there was one thing I'd want people to take away from reading the book, or to encourage them to buying it, is that data isn't another thing over there to not be concerned with. So another team doing that work for you or for me on my behalf. That every person is an influential part of the data lifecycle. They have a part to play in creating it, dictating how it moves, where it gets stored, how it gets consumed, what actions are taken from an insight from that data. Everyone is part of that entire ecosystem. And if they are more comfortable really understanding that, I would like that they could take that from it. That they are part of the data lifecycle, not another thing.
Well, I'm really looking forward to diving into it, and I can absolutely get behind a food analogy any day. So thank you, Matt, and congratulations again, like monumental achievement. I've got some quick fire questions for our listeners to get to know you a little bit better to wrap up on, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
So, first data memory.
I thought you were going to ask this. I don't really have, I can't pinpoint my first data memory, but I can say I vividly remember when my first boss showed me a VLOOKUP when I was like 20, and I was like, whoa. Something as simple as that, to churn through mass volumes of data. I think that's probably my first vivid memory of data. Nice.
Most overused buzzword in data?
I think it's easy. What would you say?
AI.
Yeah. Let's do AI on it. Absolutely, AI. Not diminishing the importance or the prevalence or the game changer that it's going to be. But everyone thinks everything is AI right now. And you look at what is obviously an if this then that statement on in data, and people go, oh wow, look at that AI. That's algebra. But yeah, AI.
Best advice you've ever received?
I don't think I could pinpoint someone giving me like a quotable piece of advice, but I would say
I can't either.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Be better.
You do a gooder, but I'd say my history teacher when I was in high school doing international baccalaureate, he was really he left an impression on a lot of my class. I think a lot of us feel this way about being curious and trying to take another perspective, get someone else's perspective. So the examples we were giving, like, how do you're reading in a book about World War II or the Cold War, try and actually think about what it was like at that time. Be curious about, the moving parts around you. That's probably the best advice that's stuck with me. Being curious, trying to get other perspectives.
Yeah, ask the questions as well.
Yep.
Absolutely, I can get behind that one. Most rewarding part of your work?
I'd say when someone has their aha moment with data, when they've been, somewhat receptive. Maybe they've really been against, engaging in the project, or maybe they've been, somewhat involved. But once they have the oh wow moment when you've actually shown them how it's flown through, and that you can actually now type in a query or type in a chat that's pointing at a semantic layer across the data, and you can say, return me this information, because, we've been living with dashboards, but now we actually want to get the data behind the dashboard served to me. I'm watching them go, oh, well, okay.
That's cool.
That's really rewarding. Yeah.
Nice. And if you were to give someone a piece of advice who's entering into the world of data and trying to build their career, what would you say to them?
I would say, in my experience, there are people who sort of have a superpower in data have been those who have had some domain expertise, so it's the interest in the domain that they're working in, as well as some understanding of data. They don't have to be experts in either, but a good blend of understanding of both. So if you're looking to get into a career in data, that could be in a data consultancy like Arreoblue, or it could be in an organization like mine where we are consumers of data. There's a data team. I would say you don't need to look at the individual company to do some research for your interview, but look at what that industry does, what makes that industry tick, what a good data insight might be, and try and learn a little bit about the industry to see if you're interested in it first. Because if you are interested in the domain, I find what I do absolutely fascinating. It's why I've stuck with it for so long. I find real estate and facilities management really interesting. So if you find a domain you're interested in, then the data part will really come to life, or vice versa, right? So if you're looking to come into or if you're entering into the market, research the industry as much as the company that you're planning to interview for.
Ties back into that curiosity piece, right?
Yep.
Stay curious, ask questions, do your research. Well, listen, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. It's
Absolutely.
been a fantastic conversation across communication, building trust, your book. Thanks for putting up with my quick fire round as well and all the random questions.
I enjoyed it.
It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yep.
And that's a wrap from us on the Arreoblue podcast today.